Matak parataram nanya kinchirasti dhananjaya Mayi sarvamidam protam sutremani gana eva. O conqueror wealth, there's no truth superior to me. All things are resting on me, just like pearls are strung on a thread. Srila Prabhupada's purport. There is a common controversy over whether the Supreme Absolute Truth is personal or impersonal. As far as Bhagavad Gita is concerned, the Absolute Truth is the personality of Godhead, Shri Krishna. And this is confirmed in every step. In this verse in particular, it is stressed that the Absolute Truth is a person. That the personality of Godhead is the Supreme Absolute Truth is also the affirmation of the Brahma Samhitas. Ishvara Parama Krishna Sachit Ananda Vigraha. That is the Supreme Absolute Truth. Personality of Godhead is Lord Krishna, who is the primeval Lord, the reservoir of all pleasure, Govinda, and the eternal form of complete bliss and knowledge. These authorities leave no doubt that the Absolute Truth is the Supreme Person, the cause of all causes. The Impersonalist, however, argues on the strength of the Vedic version given in the Shveta Upanishad 3.10. Yato yad uttarataram tad arupam anamayam ed etad vidor amritaste bhavanti atetare dukham eva piyanti. In the material world, Brahma, the primeval living entity within the universe, is understood to be the supreme amongst the demigods, human beings and lower animals. But beyond Brahma, there is transcendence, who has no real material form and is free from all material contaminations. Anyone who can know him also becomes transcendental, but those who do not know him suffer the miseries in the material world. The Impersonalist puts more stress on the word arupam. But this arupam is not impersonal. It indicates the transcendental form of eternity, bliss, and knowledge as described in the Brahma Samhita quoted above. Other verses in the Shveta Upanishad substantiate this as follows. Vedaham etam purusham mahantam aditya varnam tamasa parastat tad eva vidit pati mrityumeti nanyak panta vidite yanaya yasmat param na param asti kinchit yasmin naniyo na jayo sti kinchit Rikshar iva stabdo divi tishtan yekas tenedam puranam purushena sarvam. I know that Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is transcendental to all material conceptions of darkness. Only he who knows him can transcend the bonds of birth and death. There is no way for liberation other than this knowledge of that Supreme Person. There is no truth superior to that Supreme Person because he is the supremmost. He is smaller than the smallest. He is greater than the greatest. He is situated as a silent tree, and he illuminates the transcendental sky. And as a tree spreads its roots, he spreads his extensive energies. From these verses, one concludes that the Supreme Absolute Truth is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is all-pervading by his multi-energies, both material and spiritual. So the verse again, Matak paratramnyan kinchit manak paratramnanyat kinchit asti dhananjaya mayi saramidam protam sutre mani gana eva. I'll conquer wealth. There is no truth superior to me. Everything rests upon me as pearls are strung on a thread. So also from Lavanga Lata Mataji, also I'll be quoting from Bhagavad Gita, chapter 4, text number 9, and chapter 10, text number 8. So, Namo Vishnu Braya Krishna Prasthaya Bhute Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Namane Namaste Saraswatam Deve Gauravani Visharne Nirvishesha Srinivadi Pasketyade Satarne. So Bhagavad Gita is actually quite a simple book. Of course, Prabhupada said it's simple for the simple and it's very complicated for the crooked. Basically, there's only two aspects of knowledge in Bhagavad Gita. Knowledge of the self, that we're eternal, which is probably the thing that we can most directly perceive. And the second thing is knowledge of the Supreme Self and its different aspects. Bhagavad Gita ultimately is meant to convince us that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and that Krishna has expanded himself into different forms. Some of those forms are known as Swangsa, Krishna's personal form. Some of them are known as Vibhinangsa, Krishna's expansions of the living entities, such as ourselves. And then we have other tattvas, such as Shakti Tattva, Krishna's personal expansions of energies. In any case, to understand how Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, how he's expanded his energies, and how we can realize these things, this is the whole purport of Bhagavad Gita. Not only Bhagavad Gita, but it's the purport of all the Vedic literature. As Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, in the chapter 15, I believe text number 19 and 20, Krishna says, Yomam evam asamudo janati purushottama sasarvavit bhajante mam sarva bhavena bharata. Anyone who knows me as the Supreme Personality of Godhead without doubting is said to be the knower of everything, and therefore he engages himself in full devotional service. And then the next verse, 15:20, Iti Guyatama Shastram, Idan Yuktva Mayanaga, Etam Bhutva Buddhimatsyat, Krita Kritasyavarata. That this is the most confidential part of all the Vedic literature. That anyone who knows this will become wise, and his endeavors will know perfection. In other words, our whole endeavor is simply to know Krishna. And how to know Krishna? Well, of course, we know the process is by the process of devotional service, but what is the most important process of devotional service? So Krishna says, Maya Saktamana Partha, this is 7.1, Bhagavad Gita. I may not have included that either. But Maya Saktamana Partha, Yogam Yunjan Manashaya, Asamshayam Samagramam Yata Gyasasi Tatshinu. Now here's, yes, they did. Now hear from me, O son of Pritha. So everything begins with hearing about Krishna. That's why we have these classes. Now we can tell stories and everyone can peacefully go to sleep tonight thinking of those stories. But actually the purpose is not just to tell stories so we can peacefully sleep tonight. The purport is to hear about Krishna so we come to the platform of asamshayam samagramam, that we're free from all doubts that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So what actually are doubts? As Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Naham prakasha sarvasha, that I'm never manifested to the foolish and unintelligent. That for them I'm covered by my creative potency called Yogamaya. And so the deluded world knows me not, whom unborn and inexhaustible. So we're covered, just like the sun is in the sky. The sun is so bright that obviously anyone who has eyes can see it. Those who remain inside, they may not be able to appreciate that there's a sun. Or those who are like owls, who close their eyes, and therefore even the presence of the bright sunshine can't see anything. And the other possibility is that there are clouds. Clouds also cover our vision from the sun. So similarly, right now, our spiritual eyes are closed, or they're covered by Krishna's Yogamaya. And therefore, although Krishna is present before us in so many different ways, we don't see him. To become free from doubts doesn't mean an intellectual understanding. It means to actually perceive Krishna directly with our spiritual senses, either to open our spiritual eyes, as it says, Om Ajnana Timirandasya. When we were born in the darkness of ignorance. And what is that darkness? Ahamkar. I am this body. I am this mind. I am a product of this material world. I belong to this country. I belong to this sex. I belong to this religion. I belong to so many material designations. So this is called ignorance. Just like at night, we may be dreaming, we became a princess or a prince, or we became a dog. But actually, we're none of these things. We don't become a dog just because we're dreaming we're a dog. We don't become a prince or princess just because we're dreaming that we're a prince or princess. Similarly, we don't become this body just because we're dreaming that we're this body. After all, our present situation is just another phase of a dream. The only difference between our night dream and this daydream is that the daydream generally lasts a little bit longer than the night dream. Other than that, there's another state called waking state, called Krishna consciousness, when we wake up and we actually find out who we are. And we're no longer either in deep sleep or in this so-called waking state, but we're actually in the spiritual state of consciousness. So in order to come to that state of consciousness, we have to hear about how things actually are. That's generally called Krishna. Krishna has different aspects, as it says, that in the, I think it's in the Prema Vivarta. Not exactly sure. Maybe I didn't include that. Anyhow, there's one verse called, where it says, Ete Changsa Kala Ekadesha Stitasya Gya Joshta Vishtritiyata Parasha Brahmana Shaktis Titedam Akilam Jagat. Just like fire is situated in one place, but expands its heat and light everywhere. So similarly, Krishna is situated in one place, and by his various energies, all these material and spiritual worlds are manifested. Just like the sun is in one place in the universe, but by its energies, the whole universe is going on. By the heat and the light of the sun, it is said that the planets are revolving in their orbits. And the sun has various energies, such as heat and light, but there's also a planet called the sun planet. And within the sun planet, there's a sun god, whose name is now Vibhushwan. So the sun is all powerful in the universe. It creates the different planets. It moves them in their orbits. It provides the heat and light for all the living entities in the universe. So although the sun is so powerful, still the sun has its origin also. As Lord Brahma, who himself is the creator of the sun, through the agency of Krishna, uses Brahma to create the universe, including the sun. But Brahma acknowledges that there's another personality more powerful than him and more powerful than the sun god. He says in the Brahma Samhita, it's Chaksha Esha Savita Sakala Grahanam Raja Samasta Suramurti Ashesha Teja Yasya Gaya Brahmati Sambrita Kala Chakro Govindam Adi Purushang Tamahang Bhajami. So Brahma, he tells us that he believes in Krishna, not simply out of blind faith, but he says he has practical experience that the sun is one of the eyes of Krishna. And the sun, full of infinite effulgence, is the planet that is the king of all the other planets. It's Chaksha Esha Savita Sakala Grahana Raja Samasta. Raja means the king. Samasta means of all. Raja Samasta. Suramurti Ashesha Teja. Amurti, this planet is full of Ashesha Teja, unlimited energy, unlimited power. Since time immemorial, it is said that the sun is giving off more heat and light than all the other planets throughout the whole solar system, the whole universe. That in one moment, the sun is giving off more energy than all humankind has utilized since its known beginning. That if this earth moved a little closer to the sun, then everything would burn up on this planet. Or if the sun moved a little further away from if this planet moved a little further away from the sun, then everything here would freeze. We depend every day upon the fact that the sun is moving in an exact orbit. Just like the analogy is utilized, that in India, they have a very powerful animal called the bull. And the bull has uses in India to grind grains. They attach to the bull a very heavy weight, and they attach a ring to the bull's nose. And the bull's nose is attached to a rope, which is attached to a pole. And then they have the bull walk around the pole with a heavy weight in the back, crushing the grains. So although this bull is so powerful, it would take 50 strong men to pull that weight that the bull is pulling. Still, the bull cannot move 1 inch beyond the rope. Similarly, although the sun is full of Ashesha Teja, infinite effulgence, still it cannot move 1 inch beyond the rope that Krishna has tied the sun to. It cannot move 1 inch beyond its orbit. Every day the sun is rising at its appointed time. Every day the sun is setting at its appointed time. And this has been going on since time immemorial, or at least since the creation of this universe, and will continue to go on. So for that reason, Lord Brahma worships Govinda. Brahmati, it's Chakshar Esha Savita Sakala Grahanam Raja Samasta Suramurti Ashesha Teja Yasyagaya Brahmati Sambrita Kala Chakro. So Brahmati Sambrita, the sun's exactly in its orbit by the will of Govinda. Therefore, we have to conclude that although the sun is in one place and supporting the whole universe, above the sun is Govinda. And Govinda, as Lord Brahma says, he lives in a place called Goloka, Goloka Dham, a spiritual planet where he resides as the Supreme Person. Just like in the sun planet, there's a Supreme Person called Vivishwan. So in the spiritual world, there's a Supreme Planet called Goloka Vrindavan. And from that Goloka Vrindavan, or in the Goloka Vrindavan, there's Krishna. And from Krishna, the Goloka Vrindavan planet has expanded along with all the Vaikuntha planets, along with all the expansions of Krishna known as Narayan forms, beginning with Balaram, and then Balaram expands into Sankarshan, Pradumya, Aniruddha. And from that, Sankarshan expands others, Sankarshans that make up the spiritual Vaikuntha planets, and including one expansion of Sankarshan, expands himself as Karnadakashaya Vishnu, Garbhodakashaya Vishnu, and Shirodakashaya Vishnu in everyone's heart. So it is not that we're separated from Krishna. Krishna is in everyone's heart. Ishvara Sarvabhutanam Hrideshe Arjuna Tishtati. Therefore, we're always intimately connected with Krishna. Only due to ignorance, we don't understand that connection. Similarly, Krishna's effulgence, known as the Brahmajyoti, has expanded the planets, of which we're on this earth planet. Therefore, it says that Yasya Prabhava Pravata, Yasya Prabhava Pravato Jagaranda Koti, Koti Shasesya Vasudhara Vibhuti Bhinam. So Krishna's effulgence has manifested these planet that we're on. So we're actually in Krishna's effulgence, a manifestation of it. And Krishna is with us as the super soul. And all the living entities that we see are all expansions of Krishna's Vibhinangsa potency. Simultaneously one, but different from Krishna. Infinitely small, but of the same quality as Krishna. Therefore, to understand these different aspects of Krishna means to actually understand Krishna. And how is it possible? Maya Sakta Manat Partha. Hearing. We have to hear from the right source, and we have to have the right attitude. Just like people may think that this is a sentimental philosophy, that the Hare Krishnas, they couldn't become successful in the material world, and therefore they decided to make their living by having a musical performance on the street and selling some book that no one understands. But actually, it is not a sentimental philosophy. It is actually reality. For example, as Krishna always stresses, and as Prabhupada stressed in many of his books, if we have any samsaya, doubts, all we do is have to remember, who am I? Am I this ever-changing body? Or am I the soul within the body? Am I a conscious person whose consciousness is pervading this body, and therefore I'm aware of what's going on to some extent of this body, and due to my false ego, I'm identifying with it? Or am I a spiritual soul with spiritual senses, spiritual mind, spiritual intelligence that can be awakened by the process of devotional service? Is there a controller in the universe? Is it by accident that the sun is moving in its orbit exactly on time? That all the planets in this universe are moving in orbits? Is this all by accident? Is it by accident that I eat food, and without my conscious awareness, then some of the food, because some part of what I eat becomes digested, some part of it becomes assimilated into my body, so that by some amazing process, the cauliflower or the carrot or the potato that I ate is transformed into my arm, my liver, or my brain. Just like if the scientists could create a machine that in one part of the machine you put grass, and out of the grass, the other side of the machine comes milk. That would certainly be a very valuable invention. But I don't know of any invention in which you can put grass on one side and the other side you get milk. But Krishna has created such a machine. It's called the cow. Unfortunately, they don't give Krishna any credit for inventing the cow. But they give the scientists credit for creating things which are not so valuable. So with a little use of our intelligence, with a little bit being unenvious of Krishna, we can see how Krishna has manifested himself in this world as the sun and other planets. We can see how Krishna is controlling the sun and the planets. We can see how Krishna is providing us with the ability to eat and digest food. And with a little bit more thoughtfulness, we can understand how Krishna is supplying us with remembrance, knowledge, and forgetfulness. So this means if we hear about these things and we become convinced there is a Krishna, and therefore I should do something to please do in Krishna's service. So then our next step is to find out what Krishna wants me to do. It's not enough just to recognize that Krishna exists. It is also important to find out what Krishna wants me to do with his energies. If I think these are my energies, this is my room, this is my computer, this is my body, then I'll think, what can I do to please myself? If I think these things belong to Krishna, then I'll think about what can I utilize, how can I utilize these things to please Krishna? That's the beginning of Krishna consciousness. Hearing how everyone and everything is related to Krishna, and therefore finding out from Krishna and his representatives how he wants us to utilize his energies. That's called devotional service. Yoga yukta, connecting with Krishna through the process of devotional service. Then the result is that asamshayam samagramam. If we fix our mind upon Krishna, if we see through Shastra how things are actually related to Krishna, if we utilize Krishna's energies to please Krishna, this is putting our mind upon Krishna. Then the result is that Krishna will reveal himself to us. Tesham sadatam yuktanam, bhajantam priti purvakam, didami buddhiyogam tam, yena mam upayantite. To those who are constantly devoted to serving me with love, then I give them the understanding by which they can come to me. So we don't need a whole lot of material resources. We don't need so much material knowledge. We don't even need so much spiritual knowledge. The only thing we have to do is understand how everyone and everything is related to Krishna. That the material energy that we see around us is Krishna's energy. The souls that we see in bodies, they're also Krishna's expansions. Krishna has expanded himself in everyone's heart as the super soul, giving everyone remembrance, knowledge, and forgetfulness. If we just understand these things and then perform activities of devotion, then the result is that Krishna will reveal himself to us. And the coverings that blind us to Krishna, the illusory energy, which manifests itself in the form of lust, anger, greed, delusion, forgetfulness, loss of intelligence, these things will gradually go away. And the result is that just like, as Krishna says, Gyanena tutad agyanam, yesham nashitam atmanaha tesham adityavaj jnanam prakashiti tatparam. When, however, one is enlightened with the knowledge by which nescience is destroyed, then his knowledge reveals everything, just like the sun lights up everything in the daytime. I'll say it again from Mother Lavangalata to translate it again. Jnanena tutad agyanam.
Read it. Oh. Do you know what happened at Hotra?
I don't hear Guru Maharaj.
He's not here in the meeting, Prabhu.
So we wait.
Can you message him?
Yes, I see.
Sorry about that. It's my internet connection sometimes breaks. Okay, so again, I'll repeat the same verse I just repeated. Jnanena tutad agyanam yesham nashnam atmanaha tesham adityavaj jnanam prakashati tatparam. One, however, one is enlightened with the knowledge by which nescience is destroyed, then his knowledge reveals everything, just like the sun lights up everything in the daytime. If we simply understand Krishna in his different aspects and treat everything with devotion and everyone with devotion, then in every moment Krishna will reveal himself to us. It's not enough to only worship the deity in the temple and try to develop some awe and reverence, some devotion for the deity. And it's not even enough to simply try to develop some devotion to the holy name. We have to develop devotion to everyone that we meet. Devotion means, as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, Yari Deka Tarikaha Krishna Upadesh, that whoever we meet, we should think. Thinking actually means it's a form of prayer to Krishna. We should not think that I'm thinking as like an impersonalist. When we start thinking, it's actually dialogue with Krishna, asking Krishna to give us some intelligence. Desires are nothing but prayers to Krishna. We may not recognize that we're praying to Krishna, but the fact is that Krishna is the one who gives us intelligence and knowledge and forgetfulness. So we're 100%, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, completely dependent upon Krishna. So when we're thoughtful, then it's actually a prayer to Krishna, and then Krishna will give us appropriately intelligence. So when we meet people, if we think about what I should say, what I should do, what I should think, in order to help this soul make progress in Krishna consciousness and pure devotional service, then the result is Didami Buddhi Yogam Tam. According to our sincerity, Krishna will give us intelligence by which we can perform that service to others by helping them become Krishna conscious. That may manifest itself sometimes as giving people prasadam, giving them transcendental knowledge when it's appropriate, giving them the holy name, chanting Hare Krishna. But somehow or another, we should understand that for other living entities, we're insignificant. What is significant for every living entity is their relationship with Krishna. Everything else is relatively insignificant. Of course, if we ourselves become an instrument for Krishna to give others Krishna consciousness, then in their lives we become significant. But without Krishna, everything is insignificant. Therefore, here in this verse, Krishna is saying, everything rests on me, just like pearls are strung on a thread. So we have to try to understand how everyone and everything is dependent upon Krishna, and try to become dependent upon Krishna ourselves by becoming aware of transcendental knowledge, understanding our eternality, our relation with Krishna as the super soul, giving us remembrance, knowledge, and forgetfulness. As the super soul's representative, the spiritual master, whether it be the Diksha Guru or the Shiksha Guru, anyone who knows more than us about Krishna, anyone who's more enthusiastically engaged in Krishna's service, anyone who is more appreciative of Krishna and his devotees, that we can learn from them how to make advancement in devotional service. And if we follow their instructions, then we'll be serving them. And we'll not be serving them, but we'll be serving the lotus feet of our acharyas and the disciple succession. Therefore, the super soul has manifested himself with so many devotees, vaishnavas, to help guide us on the path of how we can see things properly, how we can feel properly, how we can serve properly with our body, mind, and words. And ultimately, our goal is to go back to Krishna, especially Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has emphasized our relation with Krishna in Goloka Vrindavan. So with the help of the super soul, with the help of the Vaishnavas, then we can make progress in service, utilizing Krishna's energies to serve Krishna's devotees and serve the innocent and defeat the atheistic propaganda that everything has come out of nothing or that everything is ultimately impersonal. But this may take some time, as Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Bonam Janmanamante, Yanamamam Prapadyate, Vasudeva Sarvamiti, Sarvamahatma Sudurlabhaha. After passing through many, many births and deaths, one who is actually knowledge surrenders unto me, knowing me to be the cause of all causes and all that is. Such a great soul is very rare. So it's not so easy to become Krishna conscious as we've experienced, because we've had this material consciousness since time immemorial, and we're very much identified with this false ego that's been provided to us by the illusory energy. So even a little advancement, Krishna says, can protect us from the greatest danger. We shouldn't become discouraged that I wake up in the morning and immediately I'm in the bodily concept of life. And during the day, maybe I get a little glimpses of Krishna consciousness, but maybe some days I'm more forgetful of Krishna than other days. But even the little advancement is so valuable. This lifetime is so short, although we think it's everything. As I've said before, Brahma lives for 311 trillion, 40 billion years, of which 1 second in Brahma's life is almost 100,000 of our years. So that means in 1 second of Brahma's life, we pass through, if we live so long, 1,000 births and deaths. This is 1 second. For us, a second is a second, and for Brahma, a second is a second also. So 1 second of Brahma, which is insignificant in Brahma's life for him, we're going through 1,000 births and deaths. So if we can make even a tiny advancement in pure devotional service each day, then that day becomes very auspicious. And eventually, if we put a little money in the bank every day, then eventually the money will become a big sum. Similarly, if we invest a little bit in pure devotional service, if we have the opportunity to live in a temple or near a temple, if we come and perform regulated sadhana in the transcendental sandwich that Srila Prabhupada has given us, namely, in the morning, we see the deities, we chant Hare Krishna, we have the association of devotees, we hear Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, we come to a holy place, the temple. So these powerful processes of chanting the holy name, hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, worshiping the deities, associating and serving the devotees, and living in a holy place, these are all available by the mercy of Srila Prabhupada in the temples that he's established. But we can also establish a holy place in our own homes. If it's not possible to go to the temple, then we can establish a temple in our home, wherever we are. Have a picture of the deity, if not Gaura Nitai deities or other deities, chant Hare Krishna before, in front of them, read Srimad Bhagavatam to them, Bhagavad Gita, or in our family, discuss these topics with our family. Serve our family members in Krishna consciousness by offering prasadam to the deities and distributing it, even just to the members of our family. Then these very powerful 5 processes will help us gradually come to the platform of becoming uncovered, of realizing Krishna with our spiritual senses. Atakshi Krishna namani nabravet grayam indriyai seva mukhehi jivado swayam eva sparatida. That no one can realize Krishna as long as we're covered. But if we utilize especially the tongue to do 2 things, chant Hare Krishna, talk about Krishna, and taste Krishna prasadam, then gradually we'll become purified. So all this philosophy meant to help us understand the process by which we can become Krishna conscious begins with hearing. Hearing about what? Especially hearing about how to utilize our tongue to chant the holy names purely. How to utilize our tongue to talk about Krishna. How to utilize our tongue to taste Krishna prasadam. Prabhupada said that if one is ill, diseased, and goes to an Ayurvedic physician, the Ayurvedic physician will give the diseased person 2 things, namely a diet and medicine. So our medicine is the chanting of the holy names and speaking about Krishna Katha. And our diet is Krishna prasadam. So these 2 very powerful opportunities to serve Krishna, namely chanting the holy name and taking Krishna prasadam, are the cure for the most dangerous disease called bhava roga, the repetition of birth and death. Unfortunately, people don't understand this because they're become misguided by so-called leaders. As Prahlad Maharaj said, that ete vidu swartikatim hi Vishnu darashaya ye bahir artamanina. People don't know that the aim of life is to obtain Krishna. And because this most significant opportunity in the new form of life is unknown, therefore they've invented so many things to occupy and misuse their time. So much technology, which can be utilized in Christian service, is generally misused for the service of what's called, what does Krishna say here? Okay. My computer screen just disappeared. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita it is said, Atmendriya priti vancha tari balikam, Krishnendriya priti icha dari premanam. Which means that when we're being subjected to the force of our senses and we serve them without any awareness of Krishna, this is called kam. And when we become aware of Krishna and we utilize our senses in Krishna's service, even eating prasadam, or even going to sleep at night and trying to dream of Krishna, even producing Krishna conscious children, or even defending Krishna or Krishna's devotees, or even our own bodies, so we can utilize our bodies in Krishna's service. This is called prema. At least the seed of prema is there. So this prema is natural. It's just been covered. And to uncover it, we simply engage with the same body, the same mind, the same words. Instead of engaging it for our sense gratification, which is known as Bali Kam, we engage it and simply add Krishna to it. And the result is that prema that naturally is within us will be uncovered as Krishna reveals himself to us. Nitya Siddha Krishna Prema Sara Kavanoi Shravanadi Shudachite Kara Odoi. Love for Krishna is natural because Krishna is all attractive and he's all loving. The amount of affection Krishna has for us is unlimited. Right now we have affection for our bodies, but the reciprocation of our body gives us in terms of happiness and enlightenment is rather limited. But when we become aware of Krishna, the affection he has for us, the love he has for us, is unlimited opulences of beauty and wealth and knowledge and fame and renunciation and strength. That will become completely in love with Krishna because Krishna is unlimitedly attractive. And we have this opportunity. If we just hear about Krishna regularly, we try to understand to the best of our ability and put it into practice through the process of devotional service, especially chanting of the holy name in the sage, then Krishna will be kind upon us and reveal himself to us. Krishna wants that. He wants that every living entity come to him and enjoy an eternal happy relationship with him. Unfortunately, the living entities are being misdirected. Instead of listening to Krishna, they're listening to so many people who are under the spell of the illusory energy. Andaya tandera upigiyamanas tepisha tantra urudami vara. And although they're blind, still, because other people are blind, the blind people are following the bigger blind people. But the result is that none of them will achieve Krishna. None of them will achieve liberation from the Bali concept of life. No one will understand what their real interest is, and therefore they'll simply entangle themselves more and more into the illusory conception of life. So now that the society is going through, the whole world is going through so many different difficulties. So this is a good opportunity for us to become serious that technology is not going to save everyone. And as much as we become serious, also try to help others understand who Krishna is, that everyone is eternal. There's nothing to worry about dying because we never die. Ahanyate, hanyamane, sharire. So the soul is never birth nor death. So we should become convinced of that and try to help others understand this also. And more importantly, help others engage, especially in chanting the holy name, so that they can become liberated from this entanglement in this cycle of birth and death. And at least, even if someone chants sincerely, even a little bit, or takes some prasadam, or hears some philosophy, then hopefully at least they won't have to be subjected to entering into a lower species of life, where they'd have to wait for millions of lifetimes before they get another chance like we have, or that they have during this 10,000 years of the golden years of Kali Yuga. So I'll stop there. Thank you. Any questions or comments? Any Hocha, bro? Any Hocha?
Thank you for the lecture. And I 3 questions from Russian devotees. First, from Lavanda Devidasi.
From who?
How cognition become recognition, or in other words, how does knowledge become consciousness?
Can you say that again, please? Повтори, пожалуйста.
How cognition becomes recognition, or in other words, how does knowledge become consciousness?
Well, we're conscious. Right now, we're conscious under these 3 modes of nature. In other words, what we're conscious of is compared to, say, you have glasses, but you put a yellow tint on the glasses. So when you see through the glasses, everything appears to be yellow. But just because everything appears to you to be yellow doesn't mean that everything is yellow. Similarly, because this body, which is comprised of senses, through which we're perceiving, is covered by the 3 modes of nature. Therefore, what we're perceiving is not reality, but we're perceiving the 3 modes of nature. Just like a dog and a brahmachari and a lusty person. They may see the same object, but they see it completely different. A dog, if it sees a beautiful woman, it thinks that this may be a very good meal. If a brahmachari sees a lusty woman, he may think, not lusty woman, but sees a beautiful woman, he may think that this is death personified. While a lusty man may think that this is a great opportunity. Same object, but seen through different vision. So when we hear this knowledge of Krishna consciousness, we see something beyond, or we can hear about something beyond our normal vision. Just like normally people, they believe that they are their body, unquestionably. They never question who I am. But when you hear Bhagavad Gita that this body is changing, but I'm not changing, therefore we get another perspective on things. So that perspective is at least an impetus to question, why is it that although I'm an eternal soul, I'm supposed to be blissful all the time. I'm supposed to understand who I am, at least. I may have so much knowledge about so many things of this material world, but if I don't know who I am, then all this knowledge won't serve me very well. So when I get some knowledge and then knowledge of Krishna, then it gives me another perspective. And instead of when I feel the urges of my senses to do something, to think something, or to see things in a certain way, then I can substitute those, I can tolerate the urges, I can substitute the conception that I presently have for a conception of Krishna consciousness. I can change my feelings from being lusty or angry or greedy or deluded or envious or mad, whatever. I could try to develop a different attitude. Therefore, by trying to change my activities on the basis of this knowledge, then when Krishna sees I'm sincere, I'm trying to do things in a different way in devotional service. I'm trying to change my attitude towards others to make it more devotional. I'm trying to see things in a more Krishna conscious perspective. Then he gives us, he gives us intelligence to understand our philosophy more clearly, to apply it more consistently with more enthusiasm. And then when Krishna sees we're trying to become enthusiastic, we're trying to become steady, then he himself personally reveals himself within our heart, in our remembrance. we feel transcendental pleasure in his presence, and that transcendental pleasure burns away the coverings of our material consciousness, just like a blazing fire turns firewood into ashes. So when Krishna reveals himself, the firewood, which is compared to our sinful activities in the past, our coverings of the material energy, gets burned away, just like fire burns away wood and turns it into ashes. So when our sinful reactions or sinful activities are burned away, then our spiritual senses become awakened. And then we can see things better, we can hear things better, we can taste things better. Our spiritual senses become awakened, and we get inspired to understand things even better. So we hear even more about Krishna philosophy. We try to apply it even more seriously within our lives. And the result is that there's a constant reciprocation between our understanding and our application and Krishna's mercy and reciprocation with us, so that gradually, progressively, we become more and more conscious and more Krishna conscious. So first we have to hear, then we have to remember what we've heard, then we have to try to understand what we've heard, then we have to apply what we've heard in a practical way, especially in the association of devotees, to distribute Krishna consciousness to others. And then as we become more and more serious, then Krishna gives us more and more intelligence, how to perform devotional service, how to help others perform devotional service, and then gradually we become situated in our eternal relation with Krishna, 24 hours a day, serving Krishna with our body, mind, and words, and with more and more, and eventually more and more consciousness of Krishna, and eventually serving Krishna directly, face to face. Anything else?
The second question from Mataji Lalita Devidasi from Donbass. How important is the will and determination in spiritual life? Is the
I couldn't hear.
How important is the will and determination in spiritual life? Is the free will important in spiritual life?
Can we give importance to that? Is that what you said? How important is determination in spiritual life? How much importance should we give it? Is that right? Pravila? Okay. Well, determination, just like if you have a big, fantastically fast train, powerful train, surely it'll reach its destination. But if you throw one leaf on the track and the train falls off, gets derailed, then it's not going to go anywhere. Similarly, if we're determined to go to the goal, then even we're set back by some circumstances that will continue on. We won't be disturbed by the leaf that's thrown on the track. So that a lot of that has to do with avoiding the four sinful activities, especially illicit sex, which is the primary attraction in this material world. That usually destroys our determination to become Krishna conscious. But if we somehow or another keep on the path of trying to become Krishna conscious and try to avoid the four sinful activities which destroy our desire for self-realization, then the result is that gradually our determination will increase as Krishna reciprocates with us and we get a higher and higher taste in Krishna consciousness. As we become more and more aware of how everyone and everything is related to Krishna, as our relation with Krishna becomes more intimate and we become more conscious of what Krishna wants us to do and how he wants us to do it, as the relation with the Super Soul becomes more intimate and the relation with Krishna's representatives, Guru, Sadhana, Shastra, become more intimate, then the result is that as that taste becomes nicer and nicer, then even when Maya tries to attract us, we're not so much easily influenced by her. And we go on with our Krishna consciousness in spite of whatever attractions or allurements Maya may present to us. So that takes practice. Everything takes practice. And that's what our process is. Practice so that we can develop that determination to come to Krishna. So I think we're going to stop there. I have another program right now. Thank you very much. Grantaraj Bhagavad Gita Ki Jai, Prabhupada Ki Jai, Gaur Premanande, Hari Bol.
Thank you, Guru Maharaj.
Thank you, Guru Maharaj.
Prabhupada Ki Jai.
Харе Кришна, Гуру Махарадж.
Krishna.
Дорогие преданные.
Hare Krishna.